This video has been prepared for anyone volunteering with Together Co, with the aim of raising awareness of safeguarding vulnerable adults and making sure people are aware of what they should do if they see or hear something that doesn't seem right. We will look at what safeguarding is, what your role is, as well as your own safety. Also, the procedure we follow at Together Co if concerns are raised regarding someone being at risk of or experiencing abuse or neglect, and also where there are mental health concerns. In addition, how this fits into our confidentiality policy and how you would deal with an emergency situation. Although we don't provide services directly to children, volunteers working with some of our services may experience concerns about children as a result of what they do for Together Co. So we will also touch on safeguarding children. Safeguarding is about people and organisations working together to prevent abuse and neglect. As a Together Co volunteer, you may have come across vulnerable adults and possibly children who are at risk of abuse or neglect. It's therefore important that you know what to look out for and that we work together to ensure the recipients of our services are protected from harm. By identifying and raising concerns early, action can be taken to prevent it from progressing. As a volunteer, you may be well placed to notice changes in an adult that could indicate abuse or neglect. The Care Act outlines the different types and patterns of abuse and neglect and the different circumstances in which they may take place. Abuse happens when a person who is unable to protect themselves is ill-treated or neglected. It may be a one-off incident, or it may happen repeatedly over time. Anyone can harm an individual who is not able to protect themselves, for example, a partner, relative, friend, neighbour, or care worker. And the abuse may take place anywhere, in a public or private place. There is more detail regarding the different categories and what to look out for in the Together Co safeguarding policy. If you do not have a copy of this policy, please let your coordinator or point of contact at Together Co know. Your role in safeguarding is to notify your coordinator or point of contact at Together Co as soon as possible if something doesn't seem right or you're worried about someone. For example, if you meet up with a Together Co client and notice that they don't look as well as they normally do, or you visit someone at home and they don't have any food in the house. Or you may speak to someone over the phone and they talk about giving out their bank details to someone who has called them up and it doesn't feel right. If you have a sense that something is not quite right, please let your coordinator or point of contact at Together Co know. We do not expect you to investigate or inquire about the concerns, but if you do notice something, please say something. Your role is to be curious, be the eyes and ears, and tell your point of contact if you see anything that concerns you. We will then take things from there. We also want you to think about your own personal safety while carrying out any volunteering activities. If at any point when volunteering you feel unsafe or someone is offensive or abusive towards you, please leave immediately and let your point of contact know. It's also a good idea to let someone know where you are when you're carrying out your volunteering. So without discussing personal details related to anyone that you're supporting, it's a good idea to give the address of where you will be to a close friend or relative in case any difficulties arise. Please also note that our office is only staffed Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m, and that if you're going to be volunteering outside of these hours, you should make sure that you are aware of the emergency contact numbers. If you raise a concern with Together Co, this will be discussed internally with a line manager or the Together Co designated safeguarding officer. And as a team, we will use our professional judgment to decide the best course of action. We will also take into account the local authorities' threshold guidance when we are making any decisions. Our focus is always to identify and endeavour to meet the desired outcomes of the individual at risk by working with them to prevent abuse from taking place or continuing. We will aim to identify the individual's view in relation to the identified risks and the actions they would like to be taken to address these risks. The local authority is responsible for deciding whether to proceed with the duty to undertake a safeguarding inquiry. If they undertake this duty, they then have the responsibility for overseeing the inquiry and deciding what action is necessary. The criteria required by the local authority to undertake a safeguarding inquiry are: firstly, the individual has needs for care and support. Secondly, the individual is experiencing or is at risk of abuse or neglect. And thirdly, as a result of their needs, the individual is unable to protect themselves. If all three criteria are not met, the local authority will not proceed with a safeguarding inquiry. This doesn't mean that they won't provide any support, but it does mean that they are unlikely to act immediately due to their waiting lists and safeguarding priorities. We're therefore careful to work with the local authority's threshold criteria and only report concerns as safeguarding if we believe they meet their criteria. If we assess a concern to be at a lower level, we will still make a record on our systems and monitor the situation. We will also take into account relevant internal policies and procedures and take action to reduce risk. We will also consider whether to make a referral to the local authority's adult social care department for an assessment of care needs, a carer's assessment, or a review of any existing arrangements of care. In addition, we will also work with other local organisations and services to access other sources of support for the individual. If we think the criteria is met, we will formally raise the concern as a safeguarding. We will also give consideration as to whether the police or other emergency services need to be contacted. In this situation, we would expect to hear back from the local authority quite quickly, and we will closely monitor the situation. Often in situations that are not deemed to be safeguarding, this is because the individual is able to protect themselves and take appropriate action. It is important to remember that people sometimes make decisions that we may not agree with, and that this is their choice. We appreciate that this can be really difficult for people to observe, and we will always try to work with individuals to encourage them to take different action or accept support, but ultimately we do have to go with the individual's wishes. If we receive reports that children may be at risk, we will normally discuss these concerns with the parents of the child affected to agree on any further action. But if we believe that talking to the parents would put the child at further risk, we will contact the relevant local authority Children's Services Department as soon as possible. We recognise that for people, reporting concerns can be a really stressful and distressing experience. We will always aim to keep you informed and ask you what support you may need from us. If we are made aware of mental health concerns, there is a slightly different procedure. We will speak with the individual to see whether they are happy for us to speak to their GP or their mental health worker if they have one. We can also pass on other useful numbers to the individual, such as the Samaritans and the Sussex Mental Health Healthline, which provides support and information so that the person has contact numbers for sources of support in the meantime. If the individual does not want any support and we are concerned for their safety, we will contact the Mental Health Rapid Response Service for advice. This service operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Although we ask you to keep personal information about the person you are supporting confidential, the exception to this rule is your coordinator or point of contact at Together Co. If you are acting in the capacity of a volunteer, then you do have an obligation to share any concerns with us So please do not promise to keep any secrets, and please be honest that you will need to share any safety concerns you have. We will handle situations where volunteers report concerns sensitively, and we'll do everything we can to protect any relationships you've built up with people that you're supporting. We will also aim to have a discussion with the individual before we report concerns to the local authority, and always gain their consent where possible. If it is appropriate or necessary to discuss concerns with other relevant partners or stakeholders, such as support workers, family, or friends, we will aim to obtain the individual's consent to share information about them, and will always inform them who the information will be shared with, unless it's unsafe to do so. If you have immediate safety concerns about someone, please do contact the emergency services straight away and then update us. Otherwise, to report concerns, please contact your coordinator or point of contact by email, on their phone line, or by calling our central number. If you are supporting an individual, you may have been given an emergency contact number for this person, such as a family member or a neighbour, and this is someone that they have agreed can be contacted in an emergency. So you may want to consider contacting this person. If it is out of hours, we have prepared a list of emergency and useful contact numbers. If you don't have a copy of this document, then please let your point of contact at Together Co know, and they'll be able to send you one. So final word, please be alert. If you see something, then please do say something. Always remember to keep yourself safe. And please do remember that people have the right to make decisions which you may not always agree with. Thank you very much for listening and for being part of our work. If you do have any further questions or queries, then please contact your point of contact at Together Co. We've also just given you a link here to a video which does highlight the importance of safeguarding procedures and systems. So if you do have time, then please have a quick look at this video as well. Thank you.